Hello everyone, you're welcome. This is Kingsley from Kingspet Designs. If you're just joining me for the first time, please ensure you subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit on the notification bell so that you get notified each time I upload new video. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to work with all the whole Elementor Pro elements. So if you come, this is actually I'm actually working on Elementor right now. So if you check, these are the basic Elementor elements. So now I'm going to go over to where, if you scroll down, you are going to see where we have our Elementor Pro, the Pro elements. So I'm going to be showing you how to use all of these elements, but for the start, I'm going to actually be showing you how to work with the Nav menu. So to do that, I'm going to I'm going to insert a column here. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to be making use of a one column. So I'm going to click on this. Now I'm going to come over here and bring in my Nav menu. So I'm going to bring in my Nav menu over here. So if you bring in your Nav menu, you are going to, it's going to display all the whole menus you actually have on your website. In case you actually don't know how to set up your menu the way it is like this, so you can actually check in the description box below. There's a video I actually have a video of where I actually show how to create your menus like this using Elementor Pro. So you can actually check it out and see how to do that. So you can now, after doing this is actually my menu. This is how it's going to come up. So if you actually check on this particular website, I actually have, if you check over here on my layouts, I'm going to walk you through how to edit each and every one of these individually. So I'm going to, from here now, I'm going to see, if you check, I actually have only one primary menu here. If you have more than one menu on your website already that you've created, you are going to see all the whole menus here, so you can actually switch and choose any one you actually want. So right now I only have just one. So now I'm going to now come into this side. Now you can see that you can either have your menus to be vertical just like this. If you are going to see them, they are going to be vertical this way. When you hover over it, you're going to see it's displays here. So now you can choose for it to be a drop down. It's going to be a hamburger menu, so you can just be like this. This is how your menu will look like. But for this to, I need my menu to be horizontal, so I'm going to leave my menu as horizontal. So now another thing, now you can decide to either make your menu to be to align to the left, to the center, or to the right, or better still, you want it to stretch all through. So it's going to stretch all through this particular thing. But for this particular tutorial, I actually want my menu to be from the left. If I need it to actually adjust it, I'm going to adjust it later on. But for this particular tutorial, I'm going to leave it from the left. Now I'm going, after this now, or let me just, I'm going to leave it at the right. I prefer my menu from the right. So I'm going to, after this now, I'm going to come over to, if you check, you can see that it's actually underlining. So this has to do with the pointer. On the pointer now, if I should, this is actually on underline. If I should click on overline, it's going to, the lines is going to be from the top. You can see the line is at the top here. So now if I should click on double line, is going to create double lines on it. You can see it has double lines on it. So now we have our framed. It's going to create something like a frame on it. Each time you hover over it, it's going to create a frame. But I just go through all this. It can be a text. On the text is going to just pop up as if so. But I'm going for, I love my menus to actually, the pointer to actually have a background, so I can just, you can see this is the way I actually love my menus to actually look like. So now I'm going to be leaving it as my background. So now coming to my animation, you can decide to add an animation. When you hover over it, what should it do? So now you might say you want it to be grow. You can see it actually grows. Now you might want it to shrink. It's going to shrink inside when you hover over it. Now you might want it to actually from top. So you can see it's going. This is how it is. So you might actually want it so now, but me, I prefer mine to come from the top this way. This is how I prefer my menus to actually look. So I'm going to leave it this way. So now I'm going to now come over to Now on this side, now we have on the sub menu indicator, you can, that's this arrow here. Now you can either decide it to be this. You can see if you check there, it's actually changing, or tick arrow, or this plus, it might be a plus sign, but I'm going to leave my own to be as the normal classic, or let me leave it as angled. I prefer this angle is actually better. So now I'm going to leave mine as angle. Now if you now come through, now if you come down again, you are going to see where we have something like our breakpoints, our mobile breakpoints. Now if you check on the mobile drop down, that's on the drop down now, that's the mobile drop down. Now the breakpoint, what do you want it to, how do you want it to lead? Do you want it to break from the tablet, or do you want it to break from mobile view? So now let me show you something. Now if I should, I'm going to preview this. Let me update this particular page. I'm going to update it first. Let me update it so you see what I'm actually going to show you. So now let me now preview this website. If I should preview this particular page, I should preview this page. This is how it's actually going to look like. This is how my menu is actually going to look like. You can see it's actually a plain website. Plain website, there's nothing on it now. So this is how it's actually going to look like. So now if I should drag it now on mobile version, now this is my tablet version. When it's on tablet, this is how it's going to, this is still on, when it's on tablet now, this is how it's going to look like. So this is where what we refer to as breakpoints. Now on breakpoints, now do I want it to be from the tablet view, or do I want it to be from the desktop view, from the mobile view? So probably on yours you might want it to be from the tablet view, but on, in my own case, let me bring this out on a different page. Okay, so I can actually be showing you alongside. So now what you now have, now on my own case, I might want it to be in mobile version. So you can just click on save. It's going to come, click on update this website. Now it's updated. So now let me check my website again. I should refresh my website now. Now remember, it's on mobile. I actually set the, so now on tablet view is still going to take my desktop kind of website version of the menu. So when I scroll down, once I get to a mobile view, it's actually going to change to this hamburger menu. So that is how it is on that particular one. So I'm now going to now go back to my website. I actually want mine to be like that. On this particular one, I want my menu to actually be like this. In terms of that, it should only, the breakpoint should only break whenever I have my mobile view. So now you might decide the breakpoints, that's from the web, it should take a full width. Now if I should, it might decide it to take a full width on the breakpoints. Let me just show you something. Let me easily navigate from here. A full width, you can see when I, you can see it's actually taking a full width. So you can just see how all this looks like. So now I'm going to leave it as this. You can see, but when it's full width, you can see it goes through the whole page. So now I'm going to leave it as it is, the normal way. So now after doing this, now I'm going to now come under the let me switch it back to my desktop view. I'm going to head over to where we have our align, on the drop down aligned. Now on the align, do I want it to align to the center, or do I want it to align to the, so now if I should say align center, now let's show me switch back to my, now on this, now is going to align to the center. You can see it's actually going to align to the center, but if I should set it to be aligned aside, you can see it's actually going to align down to the side. So now I'm going to, normally I'm going to leave it this aligned to side. Now the hamburger menu, the hamburger to toggle, that's, do I want it to have a toggle menu there or not? So I might want none. Now if I should set it on none, it's not actually not going to, just going to be like this. So I prefer it to always have that. So this is my menu. Now I'm going to now come over to where you can decide where you want it to be. Either you want it there, yeah. So on normal circumstances, on, like, for example, if I'm actually going to be working with my mobile view, in some cases I may want it to be from here, while my logo might be somewhere here if I'm actually going to be putting in my logo here. So why in some cases your logo might be at the top and this menu you might prefer it to be at the center. So it actually depends on you. So now when I come to that, I'm going to decide where I'm going to put this particular one, whether I want it to be at the center or to actually be at the side on it. But in most cases I always leave mine to be at this right hand side. So now that is that for this particular side. So now I'm going to head over to my styles. So when you come to style, I come to style now. I'm going to, when you can see we have typography. You can actually change the font size of your menu. Like for example, we are having here, I can decide to use Taoma. You can see my menu is actually changing. So I can decide to have Taoma as my menu. I can decide to have this, but then so I'm going to actually leave it as my vertical. So I can decide to increase the size of the menu. I can decide to increase or reduce the size. So I'm actually going to leave it at size 14, or let me make it size 16. I'm going to leave it at size 16. Now the weight of it, you can decide to increase the weight or reduce the weight or make it bold. So it actually depends on your own. You can make it the default. So actually depends on how you want your own to actually look like. Then you can actually transform it, whether you want it to be capital letter or upper, or all should be in small letter, or capitalizing each of them, or you want. So I'm going to leave for my own, I'm going to leave it as all capital letters. So you can decide to decorate, add decoration to either underline it or to overline it, or you want to it to strike through. So but on the normal way, I'm going to leave it as default, which I don't want underlined on it. So now you can decide to check increase this line height, the height in between them. So you can decide to increase that. I'm going to just leave it as the default. So now why the letter spacing, you can decide to increase the spacing in between the letters, but I'm also going to leave it as default. So I'm going to just leave my as like that. So now I'm going to now head over to where I have my on the normal, on the typography normal with color. You can decide to change the color of your menu. You might want it to be red, blue, or any color you want, but I'm going to leave mine as, for now I'm going to leave it as black color. So I'm going to leave mine as black color for now. So when I hover over it now, what should be the color when I hover over this? Now you can see when I hover, I'm actually the pointer, I'm going to change the color of the pointer. So I'm going to make, probably I want my pointer to be something this color. Let me say something this color. I think something like this. Should want something a little bit like, okay. Let me say this is the color I actually want for mine. You can actually use any color you want, but let me say this is what I will actually want to use on mine. Then when I hover over it, well, what should be the color of the text inside? So you can actually change the color of the text, but I'm going to leave it as white as it is. So after this now, I'm going to head over to where I have my active. Now on the active side is we're going to say, actually I'm the page I'm actually working on is not on the menu. But if you are actually working on a page which is on the menu, you are going to see that it's actually going to highlight that particular place as an active menu or space you are actually active area you are actually working with. So if I was to be, probably I was editing the about page, is going to, this about page is going to actually be highlighted as my active. So I'm going to actually leave it like that. For my own, I'm going to actually leave it, since I didn't actually, I'm going to just leave it. Or you can actually set the what you want your active colors to actually be like. So you can actually increase the padding in between them. You can increase the padding in between them. You can see, you can actually increase the padding in the horizontal. You can increase the padding vertical. But I'm in every all of my, I'm going to leave it all these parts the way I want it. If you want the space in between them, you can actually increase. But I'm still going to leave it default the way it is. think it's actually Elementor actually did a good work in this part in the default settings. So I'm going to leave it the way they are. So I'm going to head over to where I have like my border. Like now I'm going to head over to where we have our drop down. Now I'm going to concentrate on these drop down menus. Now on this side now we have, you can see on the drop down we're having it as black, it's showing as black. So I can actually say on the drop down I need my background color to be okay. Let me say my background color for the drop down menu I want it to still be default white. I prefer it white like this. You can actually change the color, you can see. So but I'm going to leave it as the default, so I'm going to clear the colors and leave it as default. So now I'm going to now on the hover, when you hover over it, I'm going to change the color of that hover. So when you hover over it, I want it to actually use this color. So I'm going to add this color to this particular side, so I'll be able to use it. So I'm going to come over to the drop down on hover. When you hover over it, the background color should be this. So this should be the background color. When you hover over it, it should also take the same color. So now that is what I just did. So now after this, now the text, I'm going to leave the text still has the default white. So now what I'm going to now do from here, on the active, you can still set the active to be whatever you want it to be, the color you want it to be, you can still do that. Then on the border type, now you can decide to add a border to it, a solid border, a double. Now you can see, let me solid border, let me try making it. So you can see it's actually having a border on it, but I don't want it to have any border, so I'm going to leave it as none. So now coming to now this borders, this has to control the border. If you want to actually add something like a border radius, that's probably whenever you add something like a border. But since I didn't add border, there's no need for this. If you want it to have a border shadow, it stay from here. So now I'm going to head over to on my padding. You can actually decide the padding how you want it to be. So I can decide to maybe increase it. You can see on this, it's actually my padding horizontal. It's actually, you can see it's actually becoming bigger as the more I increase it. So I'm going to actually leave it as the default also. I'm going to leave it as the default. You can actually still increase your padding at the vertical. You can see the more it has more padding on it. So I'm going to leave it still at the, so you can decide to add a divider in between the menu. So I can decide to add a solid divider, and you can see I can decide to the solid divider, the border width, I can decide to make it 2, 3. So now you can see I now having a divider in between them. So I can decide to make it tinier than that. But so you can decide to make it this way. But I don't want, or you can even change the color of the border color. So that is just how you do that. But I'm going to leave I'm going to clear the color. I don't need any border on it, so I'm going to leave it as none. So now that's if the distance in between, then you can actually, that's the border. I wish I added the border, but I'm going to leave it everything as default as it is. So now on the toggle menu, you can decide to set the toggle menu how you want it to look like. But for you to be able to do this, remember the toggle menu actually has to do with the mobile version. So I'm going to switch over to my mobile version where I have my toggle menu on my own. So now I'm going to now head up on this side now, the toggle color, that's the background color. What do I want it to look like? So you can actually set is give it any color you want it to actually look like. Then the text you can decide to make, so you can decide to give it any color you want, but I'm going to leave it still as my default color. I'm actually okay with it the way it was the default. So you can actually when you hover over it, what color should you can actually set that. Then the size of the toggle, how big you want it to actually look like, you can actually control it from here. So now I'm going to just make mine to be 20. Don't want it to be too big. So 20 is okay. You can set the radius, how you want the radius, the border. Do you want to add a border? You can see the radius. I'm making it round, so you can decide to add a border to it. You can decide not to add. So I'm going to remove the border. I'm going to remove the radius and make it just be square. So now that is that for this side. I'm going to switch back to my tab mobile desktop view. So now on when you come to advanced now, you can see that you can actually do some work on this. Now I can decide to set my padding in between on the top and the down. So this you can I'm not you are actually not seeing it. Let me add something like a background to this. Just click over on this side, on these 6 dots here, come over to this particular side, then background. I'm going to add something like a background color so that you see for now I'm going to make use of this. For now I'll change it later on. So I'm going to make use of this. The text I'm just going to leave it like that for now, since I'm still going to change this background, so there's no need for me changing the color of the text right now. So now I'm going to after this now I'm going to do next. I come into advanced. Remember, I want to show you something on this. Now on the advanced, now you can see you can see the padding where how it's taking effect right now. So you can decide to increase the margin on top. You can decide to add more margin. So now one thing you should notice, I can unlink this. I can decide to add spacing only at the top. I need more space at the top, and just so that is how you can just unlink it and add only to one side. Like now, if I want to add only padding to only the down part, I can decide to add padding to only the down. So I can see only the down has padding. That's I can only do that when I unlink. If I should link it up now again, it's good and apply it. It's going to apply on both all the whole sides. So I'm going to do the unlinking, return it back to 0, then I can decide to add only to the bottom, so you can see how it is. So I'm going to return it back to 0. So now that is that about this. So now I'm going to head over to our seed index. Okay, I'm going to show you when I'm going to work. I'm going to work on something on this seed index so that you see actually how it actually works. So now I'm going to come over to probably I want okay, I'm actually so now I'm going to come over to motion effect, and I want to add something like some animation. I want it to have something like to be sticky. No, it shouldn't be. I don't want to add scrolling effects to it so that whenever I'm scrolling my mouse, it's now the so I would want any scrolling effects or mouse effects on it. So I'm going to sticky. Do I want it to be sticky to the top? What it means by sticky to the top now is if, for example, I have some items on it and I scroll, is this menu is not going to go up. Like if you see, like this one I have here now, if I should scroll, it's actually the menu is actually went off. But if I make it sticky, is this particular menu is actually going to remain at the top here. So that is what we refer to as sticky. So and I want it to be sticky. So that whenever I scroll, it's going actually still going to remain on it. So I can select with the devices I want it to be sticky on, whether on laptop, mobile. So you can when I scroll, actually I don't have any item now. That's why I can't scroll on it. So now that is just how you do that. Okay, for let me make this very easy for you to understand. Let me actually bring in some items and place at the bottom. So I'm going to import something here. So let me import, let me check if I have any templates. I can just import and paste here. So let me home page header. Okay, let me just import my home page one. Okay, now you can see from this now, this is the home page I actually created. So if I should make this particular place sticky, you can see that when by the time I try to scroll this website, this menu is actually going to still remain sticky at the top. So it's not actually moving, it's actually remaining sticky at this particular top. So now when you come over to this particular, let me come over on this menu now. I'm still going to show you something. If I should remove, I can decide to make it choose the devices I want it to be sticky on. So maybe I don't want it to be sticky on the tablet view. If I should move it from the tablet view and I switch over to my tablet view, and I now if I should scroll, you can see if I should scroll, it's going to go off. So now after doing that, you can now come over to where I have my entrance. I might want to give it some animation. Okay, let me go back to my desktop view. I might want to give it some animation, how it actually is, but I don't think there's any need for me to add animation for the menu. So I don't think so. I'm going to leave it as none. So after doing this now, I'm going to now add you might want it to select the device which is going to be visible on, so you can decide to choose any device you want, and after that you can decide, okay, I want it to be visible only on, not to be visible on desktop view. It's not going to be visible on desktop view. So that's just how you do that. So now how you can actually add some CSS and some attributes if you want to, but for now I'm not going to add anything there. So now that is that about this particular one here now. So what if I wanted this particular menu to actually be something like transparent, and maybe, okay, let me say like this one I have here now, I actually have this. Now I want this to actually be a kind of transparent. Let this menu be transparent so that it's going to see, there's something that in this particular thing can be actually scroll. As you scroll on top, it's going to be scrolling. So now how do I do that? You can actually, okay, I can do that by, okay, I'm going to add some index on this. So I'm going to click on this one, I'm going to click on this and come to my Z index. I'm going to give it index of 1. So I'm going to, that's on the menu now, I'm going to give it index of 1, and also on this now the index is already, if you check on the advanced, the index is 0 when it's not having anything. So I can, on this one now, click on it and come to my margin and do minus. I'm going to, as I'm doing minus, it's going to go on top of it. So that is just how it is. It's going to go on top of it. So just do it until it gets to the point of which you know it's okay for you. So I can make it, this is, I think it's okay for me this way. I think it's okay this way. So now you can see that I can, right now I can click on this particular segment. I can click on it and now come over to where I have my style. Remember I added, now I'm going to remove the color, so it is now a kind of transparent. That menu is actually transparent. Or I can decide to add white color, then make this background a little bit transparent. It's not going to be totally transparent, so that it's going to, you will see know that that is actually a bar here. So you can see this now, this is how your menu will now look like. It's going to actually be transparent over what you have. You can see, I can see my, it's sticky, actually sticky, but I can be able to click on them while it still can still see them while it actually goes. So that is how you do that. So now what if I wanted to make my, this particular, to actually have something like a, I want to add something like, let me say I want to add a column. I'm going to add a new column to this. Now the column is actually coming here. I'm going to adjust this column to this other side. I'm going, okay, let me just, it's giving me the difficulty, it's refusing to click. So what I can just do, I can just, okay, since I have this, I can just do this, copy this and paste it in this other one. So I'm now remove from here. So that is how it is. I can decide to bring in my site logo into this particular place, but I'm going to now, but I'm going to make use of my this and image. I'm going to bring in an image here. I'm going to now go and select the particular logo I want to use for my, so let me say for example this is the logo I want to actually use. I'm going to select this, and or can decide to use this, and say I can decide to choose any of the color there, any of the logo. I can pick this. This is transparent. You can see the logo there is actually transparent. So I'm going to come over here and choose the size of the logo to how I want it to look like. So I think this size should be okay for me. Now what the next thing I'm going to do, you can see this my menu. I'm going to, this logo I'm going to come to my alignment and align this logo to the end here. So what I'm now going to do now on this particular side, I'm going to click on this column here and make this, let me say I'm going to make this 25%. Then you can see when I make that 25%, you can see that this is what I now have. If you're still watching this video and you've not yet considered subscribing to my channel, please hit on the subscribe button and click on the notification bell so that you get notified each time I upload new video. Now if you check now, based on what we have here now, this particular background is supposed to be on top of this, already, but I'm still having this as white. Why this? So I'm going to do something here now. I need to add some index on this. So on this particular one, I'm going to add on come to advanced. I'm going to add some index on it. So I'm going to come over to this side. I'm going to come to motion. I'm going to add some offsets. I'm going to add some offsets. So you can see. Let me see the offset and adding. Let me say 50. You can see by that. You can see 50. This is where it took it to. So now on 50, this is what I have. If I have something like, let me say I'm having my offset has this 5, you can see this is what I have. So I'm going to have my offset as 0. If I should have it as 0, this is what I actually have. So now I'm having this. This is how my logo now. So this we have still have this logo here and this. So now you can see that is just I added what I just did is to make sure on the offset I added some this so that the offset will still remain there. So now when I'm actually not on, let me come back to this logo. I'm going to increase the size of the logo. Let me make it something like 40 or 45. I'm going to make it 45. So you can just play around with your own design the way you want it to actually look like. And see, I'm actually now having some errors here, so I'm going to just adjust that and fix that particular error. So I'm going to come over, click here again, and come over to where I have my motion effect, advanced motion effect. So I'm going to add some offset to it. So I think now based on what I have now, I'm seeing the fault is wrong, so I'm going to adjust this one here. So I'm going to adjust this. Now remember, I can't right now, I can't really click on this, so because of this other one, so I can just do that by clicking edit section, right clicking on it, edit section, and then adjust this a little bit up, let it go up. So I can just do it that way, let it go up. So this is it. I'm going to So this is what we now have. So now you can see, you can actually play with this thing how you want it to actually look like. And so I think for now, this is how I'm going to actually leave this particular menu for now. So you can actually decide to increase the thickness of this. And okay, let me decide I'm going to make it something like blue. So I'm going to make it blue and transparent the blue. So I can, after doing this, you can see this is what I now have. Now I can decide to now make this a white color. I can so that the text is going to come out well. So I'm going to come over to here and change my color from that to white. So now after doing this, now there's something else I want you to also notice. If you check, if I click on that now, if you check on my menu, I don't have can decide to add something like a border on that particular side. Border, that's on this particular one. I'm going to click on it and come to border. I'm going to add a solid border. But now this border, I don't want it. I want it to only appear at the bottom. I want it to be only at the bottom. So I'm going to add a bottom. Then I'm going to make it maybe white. So you can see it has something like a divider on it, under it, which is somehow like whitish. So that is just how you work on. You can actually try and work on your menu bar. So I believe you might have actually learned from this particular tutorial. You can customize your menu bar the way you actually want it to look like. If you have any difficulty or any question you want me to actually handle or touch, you can actually drop in the comments box below. I will try my best to see how to answer. Until next time, bye for now.